Hey everybody, it's Connor with Honor. I did put together some information regarding finding out how much your house is worth, and this is critically important for sellers and then also on the buyer side to verify information, to verify if in fact the property that they are looking for is in fact or looking at is in fact valued at the price that they're approaching it. And the other thing too that you might want to consider is those online resources. So let me cover some of these things. So determining your home's value can be crucial for various reasons, from listing it to sale to refinancing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain different methods and give you some insights. Now, understanding the home valuation includes several factors that do influence your home's value, leading to different types of valuations. Now, of course, first you're going to have the assessed value, and that's going to be determined by government assessors for property taxes using methods varied by location. And appraised value is going to be calculated by a professional appraiser required by mortgage lenders. It does consider things like curb appeal, square footage, condition, and comparable properties as far as comps go. If you ever heard the word comps, it's comparable properties. And that happens a lot in real estate. There's a lot of acronyms that agents use, like bomb would be something that, not an explosive bomb, but a bomb would be back on market, a property that failed to complete the escrow process with their particular buyer. And that happens quite frequently. In fact, in a lot of markets, at least this time of year, seems to be in our market somewhere between 20 and 25% of the listings that actually go into escrow don't make it all the way for various reasons. And that's something that we definitely talk to our clients about and explain how that process works. And in fact, today we had something accepted by a client again with that we wrote an offer on originally but didn't get, but fell out of escrow. So good stuff. Market value, this is where a price, this is a price a willing buyer would pay in the open market. This does consider location, square footage, market trends, and also the neighborhood, what's going on there. Now, the online tools that you're going to run into as far as getting your own valuation on your property, be wary of these, because once you enter a house number and address into one of these systems, those systems start their real work. They go try to find out who you are and do an assessment as to what potentially the odds are of you taking the next step into the real estate process besides the things you provide. Very smart. So there's these computer algorithms, these programs that they put together to be able to assess this information. And you know what? They're not bad. They're pretty accurate. So be wary if you enter your address in one of these valuation systems. You're probably going to get hammered with emails, even though you didn't even put it in there. Text messages, I know, didn't even give up your cell phone, and emails, and I get it, probably didn't even give an email address. It happens quite frequently. Be wary. So if you need to find out what something is worth, a couple different ways, call me. And if you're not in my market, Connor with Honor, if you're not here in Santa Clarita Valley, Los Angeles, Southern California esque, more than likely I can get you that evaluation very accurately. If you're outside of that area, I have people to refer you to that'll be able to do the same thing without you compromising your personal information. Now, the Zillow, the Redfin, the Realtor.com, these major banks and also major banks do have online valuation tools for quick estimates. While they're convenient, they do have limitations. So those are going to be not accounting for specific home maintenance levels. So the condition of the residence is going to be in question with regard to these websites. They're not that consummate professional. They're able to give you valuations based on past history and potential neighborhood comparables that might be kind of close. But let's say your house has it all, and the other ones that have sold in the last few months don't have anything. As far as the upgrades and the time and the effort you put in your residence, that's going to really change your value. And in this kind of market that's very hot right now, it's going to give you quite a bit more money, probably more money than you actually put into it to get those improvements. Probably. Just depends on what those improvements are going to be. If you're going to be replacing the floorboards, maybe not. Crown molding, probably not. But if you want to redo your kitchen or upgrade your bathrooms or maybe seal your garage if it happens to have exposed beams and not be already sealed with insulation, not a bad move. Maybe the roof is in disrepair. You want to get that fixed again. Probably those systems will probably have to come in some kind of semblance of good repair. But those other items, that kitchen, the bathroom, the flooring, those things a lot of times actually give value to a property depending on how vanilla the upgrade is. Probably going to depend on how much money you'll get for it. All right, so moving into this, um, They don't account for the specific home maintenance levels as I talked about. Inaccuracies in valuing unique properties in older neighborhoods. Santa Clarita Valley, we have properties going back to the 60s, 50s, maybe 50s. Well, I'd have to look, but 60s for sure. So when you look at properties back in the day, and let's say you have somebody that's still owner occupying a property from the 60s, which would be amazing, but could happen. But even somebody that bought in the 70s or the 80s, there are a lot of people that haven't moved on. They're still in that house, maybe paid off the mortgage. They're sitting tight. It's difficult in those types of neighborhoods, especially when they have a long-term standing ownership record of the same people in the same neighborhood. Nothing's really recorded or sold in quite a while, or there's not very many comps. Again, that's going to skew these online estimates of value. Plus, they don't have the expertise and precision when it comes to putting numbers on properties, which is incredibly important for you as a real estate buyer or seller to get that real information, that data, so you know what you're working with. Now, if you're going to, once we get to talk, the way that this works is I'm going to give you a personalized market evaluation. And most of us should be able to do this, but we access a lot of data. The most important thing with that, though, is getting somebody that, number one, you trust, somebody that's somewhere online, somebody that's you're able to verify they in fact are who they are, real live individual, air breathing person, because these online systems are using AI and different other technologies to give you values. And as we're going to see in the future, as you watch, you're going to see a lot of fake stuff out there. Not that you haven't already seen it, but it's going to get crazy, and that's going to be also applicable to real estate. So watch out for that. So, as far as my role, what I do is I make sure that I definitely provide for you that competitive market analysis of the CMA. And what I do is I'm looking at it from a couple different views. So first off, I want to use some of the standards that a typical appraiser might use when it comes to evaluating property. I want it within a half mile or closer. I want several sold comparables that are very, very close, hopefully same builder, same neighborhood, same year built. These are all great things. And then the closings should be within those 6 months or 180 days. That's that value time frame that appraisers look at. The thing is, though, is you have to take this into consideration as a seller. Let's say these comparables on your house showing this astronomical, great, wonderful value go back 5.5 months. Let's say that's where all those solds are. In half a month, in another 15 days, those comps aren't going to be on that radar anymore. They're going to fall away. Now there's no comparables. So then the appraisal standard has to change. So maybe an appraiser is going to include the properties that are now over 180 days. They have to justify that. They can't just throw it out there. If they're trying to compare a property with another property in some other city, it's also going to be a problem. They're going to have to explain how they justify that. So I look at property valuation that way. So whenever I'm putting numbers on properties, I'm not only looking at the property itself, but also those comparables. But the comparables have to be comparative, right? So that's what I do when I'm looking at these items, and I'm making sure that I also take into account the grade of repair the houses are in. Has it been basically not taken care of for the last 25 years? Or is this one of those people that save every single receipt that they've ever generated out of any kind of repair, fix, or any kind of modification, upgrade, renovation to their residence? Do they keep a drawer or files filled with all these by month and date and year? It happens. And those people buying a house from somebody like that, a seller that way, as a buyer, you've won immensely, especially if that house is older. All right, moving into this. So once that happens, then when I give some sellers value, there's a lot of happiness. In some cases, maybe not so much, but I do try to establish exactly why. And I show the sellers and the buyers when I'm comparing value for a buyer to write the offer or a seller to list and sell their house. I'm giving them the information that they need so they can move forward, at least make decisions. Might not always be the best thing in the world. I have my opinion. At the end of the day, a seller or a buyer might have a different opinion. At the end, they're the boss. So if it's not out of the realm of possibility, we do modifications and adjustments, and I do remain very green and nimble so I don't break. Things that aren't nimble tend to break, and I don't want to break. All right, so agent versus appraiser. Here's something that's also what people talk about. An appraiser is going to be dispatched by the buyer's lender if that buyer is going to obtain a loan to buy the house. Makes sense. The buyer is going to be paying that fee for the appraiser to go out from the lender that they've chosen, and the lender is going to then dispatch that appraisal after they hit the buyer with a credit card, probably 5, 6, 7, 800 bucks, depending on the size of the property location. Once that happens, the appraiser gets ordered, goes out to the property, and they're looking for an appraisal on a house, and that's going to be for a brand new loan. There's also other appraisals out there, and those typically are going to be refinances, maybe for divorces, other reasons. But there's also refis done for those reasons. And in fact, it could be that those numbers are a little skewed because if an appraiser is trying to get to a particular amount for a bank on a brand new loan for a buyer, that appraisal amount could actually differ than somebody trying to do a refinance. And the reason is this: for that person that wants to buy a house, that bank is going to look at a lot of factors. For that person that's going to get a refinance, there might not be so much to look at because there's plenty of track record and history. And then there's also plenty of other data that the bank can use to verify their decision with regard to the refinance of a particular property. These are things that the banks look at very carefully, and your knowledge of that is important, and it does help you understand that process a little bit more so you kind of understand. Whenever somebody says they have an appraisal on the property and they're offering it for sale and saying, well, the appraiser said it was worth $1.3 million, but that appraisal happened to be a particular type, maybe that value could be higher depending or lower depending as well. That's something to consider whether you're on the selling side or the buyer side. What happens, in fact, if an appraiser goes out to a property that's an origination or a buyer purchase, something new? They're buying a house that's on the resale market or new, not so much new really, they're pretty good with the value, but on the resale market, whenever they go out there and they're establishing that value, they're looking at those comparables, but they're also looking at other data. Now, moving into this, one of the things that is important to understand, understanding that your home's value and then the home value for the buyers out there is incredibly important. Where you get that data is also important, and then how that data is scrubbed over, digested, verified, and then given and explained to the client is probably the most important step. That explanation, you having copies of everything I look at, understanding how I did it. So now you can feel confident that you've seen everything. And I even give you other sources to verify that what I'm saying is true. I'm running through all those systems online, all the syndication sites that are stealing data, well, not stealing, they're selling data. So be wary with that. But I'm running those numbers for you so you're not harassed, bothered, or anything. So you have the true data and true information. This is 14 minutes on property evaluation and pricing real estate. It is very market dependent. We'll see some houses that get put on the market, and for all intents and purposes, that listing price looks great, but there's some kind of obsolescence with the property that's discovered, some kind of issue that's creating the property, making the property not sell as it was intended at that price. Maybe it's close to high frequency power lines. Maybe it's very close to a school and there's a big drop off pickup issue. Other things that really can't be established and talked about, and it's really hard to say who's going to be able to accept those types of things. But maybe the people that are buying the property across from the school have school age children and pop in the crosswalk, walk across the street, and they're at school. Some people really like those types of properties. Selling your property is very dependent on the buyers out there. Is there a buyer that fits the bill that wants to purchase the residence that we list for sale for you? It's going to depend, and it's also going to depend on the market. I'm Connor with Honor. Be well. Let me know.